Afternoon. Welcome to Plantish Live. I'm Nina Curtis. My co-host Sesabek Randall and I go live Tuesdays 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and here we are. It's another Tuesday, actually the second Tuesday in July. Time is flying fast when we're having fun, and we're thrilled to have you here with us. We always say we have you, so I'm excited. I know my co-host will be joining me shortly, and our guest today is the Sprout Man, Doug Evans. If you don't know about the Sprout Man, you're about to learn about the Sprout Man. Hello, Chef. How are you?
Very well, Chef. How are you?
You know me popping out, popping out.
You
I
look
pop out of the
amazing.
bed. Thank
Yeah,
you. I pop out of
vibrating.
the bed like this.
Wow.
I was going to use a filter today because you know how you hear people always go, "Well, you can just post, just put a filter on." That crap scared the heck out of me. I was like, "What is that?" I don't know. I must not have the right filters. So I was like, "Do what you know to do and get yourself beat that face, beat that face." Yes. So how are you? I'm so excited for our conversation with Doug today.
Yeah, same. I'm doing so well. It's Tuesday. Like you said, it's the second Tuesday in July. Time is flying. But here we are, about to have
Here we
another nourishing conversation.
Yes, I am ready for it. Do you sprout? I mean, I know we eat sprouts, but do you sprout?
I don't, I
Oh,
actually don't
oh, yeah.
personally sprout, but I'm learning to, well, I'm looking forward to learning more about this today. I go to the store and I purchase mine, but it's so easy to do. I've heard about it. So yeah, just looking forward to dipping my toe after this session.
I know. Dip our toe and start sprouting. That is what we're going to talk about. You know, Doug has been in this for so long. He's known as the serial health food entrepreneur, visionary, and he's had previous companies. And now I'm interested in finding out, what made him decide I'm going to start a whole company around sprouting. And he is the best-selling author of the Sprout book. So we'll get into that. And I know he'll be joining us momentarily. Let's see what the chat's doing. Fam, as you're coming in, please just let us know where you're tapping in from. It is a Tuesday, of course. You know, Chef and I are going to show up no matter what's happening. I watched somebody, they were doing a live the other night, and they were like, "This is my little corner. Everything looks perfect. Everything else around me is in, chaos, but you don't see that." So I love how we can just show up however we want and nobody, but I don't have chaos so much. Just is what it is, what it
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. You know me, Chef. I wake up and I have to ground myself because the world is moving so quickly. But me, I'm going to stay planted and make sure that I'm, you know,
You know, our,
on
our
ground.
play on words. We're staying planted and plantish. Good
Right.
morning, Mom Etes, joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good morning. I see our guest. We are going to get him in here to join us because I know we could keep Doug all day. You know, sprouts are so intriguing to me because most people know alfalfa sprouts in the store. Hello, Doug. How are
I'm
you?
the
Right.
best ever, Nina. Hi, Chef. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, man, so excited.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And Doug, we have a very engaging community. So people are coming in. Well, this is very conversational. It's like we're sitting at what we like to call the green
I,
table.
I love
And
it.
we are going to get into it, but we also involve, hello, everyone coming in. Thank you for joining us. Please let us know where you're joining from because we have a very international community. But we're going to get into this already. If you're just coming in, I want you to know we have Doug Evans here. He is the best-selling author of the Sprout book. He is a serial health food entrepreneur. He's been doing this for decades, and he look how young he looks.
Yeah,
And he
fif-
has done
59,
so much.
59 years old.
We love it. We love
So
it.
no filters.
You're right. This is it. Maybe some light, but who doesn't use light because the algorithm
No,
wants to
no,
see you shining bright?
this is just
Oh,
daylight. We don't
so
have a
Doug,
light
where
on in
are
our
you?
house.
Doug, where are
I'm
you?
at
Okay.
I'm at Wonder Valley Hot Springs, near Joshua Tree, California. I'll just put on a little Instagram there, but that's where I am right now,
Wow.
and that's where I live.
Wow. How hot is it there? Good morning, She Girl 57.
Yeah, so I would say it can be hot. The morning is cool, like 60 degrees Fahrenheit,
Okay.
and the evenings can be 100 or north of 100.
Okay.
So it could be hot.
Yeah.
The winters are cool. But I have to tell you, if you get in the hot spring during the day and then you get out, you're cold, right? Just the thermal transfer is just naturally cooling. So it's important. You can live, you just got to bring a spray bottle and just mist yourself all the time and you'll be all set.
And now they have those solar fans that you can put around your neck and just let that work for you since you're out in the sun.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Okay.
let's get
So,
into this. I
yes.
want to ask you, tell me of all the companies you've started and the visionary that you are and the decades in the healthcare food world in general, why did you decide to focus, I'd say a lot of your energy, because any business calls for a lot of our energy on Sprouts?
So I knew about sprouting and have been sprouting for 30
Wow.
years. And I always thought of sprouts as a garnish or as a side dish. And then when I moved to the desert, it not only was it an environmental desert, it was a food desert. And so there was no access to food. So I said, I'm going to grow my own food, being plant-based, being raw vegan at the time for, decades. And then I found out the hard way. It's really hard to grow your own food. Like growing your own food is hard. And then, as I really meditated and I asked, what could I do? Then I got the idea of like, oh, what if I could sprout? Because I knew how to sprout. And within 30 days in 1 cubic foot with 6 jars, I was growing thousands of calories of nutrition. And as I started to ask questions, I realized that every benefit of the whole food plant-based diet could be achieved by eating sprouts. So I decided to be a test of one and say, what if I lived exclusively on sprouts? Like, what if I lived on sprouts for 30 days? So for 30 days in 6 jars, and I have my jars set up over here, I was growing sprouts and getting every micronutrient, every phytonutrient, every antioxidant, polyphenol, bioflavonoid, every amino acid to form complete proteins. And so not only was I surviving, but I was living like on this peak state, mental, physical, spiritual state, because I was eating living plants.
Yeah.
So as I started to research and I called up Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Mark Hyman and Dr. Josh Axe and Dr. Joel Kahn and Dr. Joel Furman, I asked them, what do you guys think about sprouts? And every one of them, whether they were keto, functional medicine, or plant-based, they all loved sprouts. And that gave me the confidence to write, as you said, the Sprout book,
Mhm.
right? And when I wrote this book, I had never written anything before in my life. I wasn't a writer.
Okay.
So but I decided like I couldn't believe there was never a book on sprouting published by a major publisher that had major energy and juice behind it. So there were people that we all know of or know, Dr. Ann Wigmore, Victoria Skavinskas, Steve Meyerowitz, Gabriel Cousins, David Wolf. These people talked about sprouts, they liked sprouts, but they never broke through to the mainstream. And I said, this is not like something that is going to be easy. And I like a challenge. But I said that sprouts to me aren't a garnish anymore. They are the original superfood. So I rediscovered something that wise people have known since the beginning of time, that sprouts grow without sun, without sunshine, without fertilizer, right? Without soil in days, and it's a miracle. And when we think about, and I was concerned with this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, plastic. Like, I really don't like plastic. So the fact that I could grow the sprouts in glass with stainless steel and use organic seeds, that was really powerful. And the fact that when you soak a seed, like, these lentils, and, lentils are a staple of the plant-based diet around the world. And they're healthy, like we know lentils are healthy. When you sprout a lentil, on day 3, you've increased the vitamin C by 300%. You're increasing the vitamin A. You're increasing all these phytonutrients. That this was a miracle, and I couldn't believe that everyone didn't know it. And then when I looked at the equipment that was out there for sprouting, people were using mason jars, pantyhose, stockings, rubber bands, and that I wanted to design something that was specifically for sprouting, like really specifically for sprouting. So it began with a large jar, and this jar, one second, you know, is like, almost double the size of the standard mason jar. And when I made a big jar, they were slippery, so I made these little detents, so even my wife with her small hands, she could pick it up and not drop. So it was a beautiful bespoke jar. And then the filter I made out of stainless steel so that you could get good airflow, good drainage. And then I made the jar straight. So the jar was a straight edge so that when you drained it, all the water would come out, as opposed to having some lip or some collar that existed in a normal, mason jar or pasta jar. And then I, did these little castellations. So when you're done, you could store it in the refrigerator upside down, and air would go in and they wouldn't be sitting in their own water. And then I designed a stand that was at the perfect angle. And in my little lab, I was testing 90 degrees, flat, etc. And I came up with this angle after testing hundreds of jars, and then like a little removable drip tray. So all these things were designed, and it took years to design it, but I knew that if I nailed it, then it would make sprouting approachable, easy, accessible. And then the seeds, and it's a whole other story on the seeds. Like, for me, in the beginning, I didn't know much about the seeds, right? So when I just got seeds from the bulk bin or off of the shelf in a bag in the health food store, some of them sprouted, some of them didn't, some of them didn't sprout at all. And that's when I learned about getting seeds that were tested for germination, tested for certified organic, and then tested for pathogens. So literally taking a batch of the seeds, growing them out, taking the water, sending it to the lab, testing for pathogens. So there was a degree of safety. So like, I wanted to offer seeds that were grown in the US, certified organic, tested for pathogens, and tested and certified for a high germination rate, so I could guarantee that they would sprout seeds, right? So that was like the first level that I got to. And then there were secondary and tertiary levels where I started to get broccoli seeds. And I talk about the power of broccoli, the power of sulforaphane. And then when I sent the seeds out to the lab, remarkably, some seeds had medium levels of glucoraphanin, some had slightly higher. But what was alarming was some had zero. So they were sold as broccoli seeds from major suppliers, and they had zero of sulforaphane or glucoraphanin in them. And then I sent them out to another lab and they sequenced the DNA, and they found out that they were in the brassica family, but they weren't broccoli, so they didn't have glucoraphanin. Maybe they had glucoraphanine or some other isothiocyanate or glucosinolate, but not what I wanted. So that's when I decided, like, really got to do the testing, the accountability, the traceability, so that we could have that. And then, look, I'm 59. Never was on social media. Like, maybe I would check, Twitter occasionally, if there was something going on in the world. But then in 2020, when my book came out, there was no book tours. Jean George canceled my book launch in ABCV in New York because they were closing for COVID. Barnes and Nobles were closing across the country. No one wanted to come out. So that's when I said, I need to, if it is to be, it is up to me. So I'm going to take matters into my own hands. So I went on social media. I went on Instagram. I went on TikTok. I invited myself on podcasts, and then this revolution sprouted, and now it just has momentum, and I have found my calling, my legend. So it's a long way to tell you, why did I choose sprouting? I think sprouting chose me. When I ate the sprouts, they became part of my DNA. They became part of my consciousness. I tuned into a level of ancient wisdom that is forcing me, literally forcing me to do what I do every day.
I love that. You dropped so many gems. What are you thinking over there, Chef? Did you catch all that?
Oh my goodness, I just need a second to breathe to truly digest all the gems that were just dropped. Oh my goodness. First of all, I'm sold on the sprouting kit. I need that in my life. I'm ordering
Okay.
as soon as we're done here.
All right.
But oh my goodness, wow, this is just so amazing. I'll say what I have to say right now. But yes, please continue.
I love this. Doug, as you know, I've been sprouting forever and I have my mung beans going.
Yes.
And so I love the fact, in the book you talk about sprouts as the garden, the vegetable garden in the jar. And I think it's a point I want to tap in. I've taken some mental notes with things you've dropped. Fam, if you're just coming in, welcome, welcome, welcome to Plantish Live. Chef Sesabek and I go live Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here we are at another Tuesday. We are speaking with how he is known, the Sprout Man, Doug Evans. He is the founder and CEO of the Sprouting Company. He's the best-selling author of the Sprout book, and he is dropping gems for us about why sprouting. And I have like 10 things going on in my head, Doug and Chef, about, okay, let's break this down. Let's give people even time to breathe with you because you encapsulate it, like you sprouted so many different stories and so many different
Yeah.
ways we could go in this. One I want to tap into, I think people see sprouts as alfalfa sprouts in the store. Sometimes they look really sprouted and healthy. Sometimes they look a little limp. But the other thing that they associate them with is, the Birkenstocks, and that go in a health food store and get a sprout sandwich. The sprouts are 3 inches deep. Maybe you see a little tomato, maybe a little lettuce, and you just told us you went on a 30-day only sprout living, eating foods.
Yeah.
What did that look like? I want people to start getting a visual. If we want, as you said, to make sprouting very common and very easy, because we've had farmers on and we've talked about food insecurity. We've talked about supporting, the farmers markets, supporting CSA in your area. We've brought people on gardening in your own kitchen with kits. But now we're talking about sprouting where you don't need soil, you don't need sunlight, you don't need all of these things that no matter where we are growing a garden, we need certain elements. So tell us first, what did that look like for 30 days? I want people to realize, how did he survive? Did he just really fast and had a couple of
No,
sprouts in the day?
no,
Yeah.
no. Well, it turns out like a cup,
Okay.
right, of garbanzo bean sprouts, sprouted garbanzo beans is over 200 calories, 200 to 225 calories, 20 grams of protein. So when you have sprouted garbanzo beans, sprouted green peas, sprouted mung beans, sprouted lentils, you can quickly get up to the calorie levels. And when you pair sprouted lentils with alfalfa sprouts and sprouted garbanzo beans with broccoli sprouts, you end up getting a complete amino acid profile. All 9 essential amino acids form. So you're getting this incredibly nutrient dense diet. So if you think about sprouts, they're up to 100 times more nutrient dense than the average vegetable, just plain. So it's like you're flooding your body with nutrients. Secondly, the average vegetable in the United States is traveling 2,000 miles across the country in a plastic bag on a refrigerated truck till it gets to the grocery store. So the fact that I was consuming fresh vegetables out of my countertop garden was like, whoa, this is really good. And then another layer, when we talk about the whole food plant-based diet, like if you're eating a slice of pineapple, you're not eating the whole pineapple vine, bush, tree, the root, the shoot, that you're eating like a part of the fruit. And that would go for almost all garden stage vegetables that you're buying in the grocery store. The unique thing about the sprout is that you're consuming the entire living organism, the root, the shoot, the endosperm, the embryo. It's alive, enzymatically active, and it's living. So that's very, very rare, because once you put it into the ground, like even microgreens, which I like, you're eating above the fold. You're not eating the root structure. We know we eat some roots, right? Whether it's a carrot or burdock root, and roots are really healthy. So when you're eating mature broccoli or cauliflower or string beans or anything, you're just eating part of the plant. So when I realized like I was eating this, a living food, enzymatically active living food that was water-based, soluble and insoluble fiber, it was profound. It was a profound feeling. So what did I do? Like right now, I'm going to advance a little bit further because it's more practical to people. Today, my diet is 50% sprouts and 50% fruits, vegetables, seaweed, some seeds, some nuts, but I'm getting about 50% sprouts. I will take the sprouted garbanzo beans, and these will go into a jar, and then I'll add some pickle brine or sauerkraut, and I'll just blend it. And all of a sudden, I have the acid, I have some sodium, I've got the ferment, and I'm making a hummus or a dip that is just delicious. So that's one thing I'll do. I can take the lentils, sprouted lentils, and literally just add some sauerkraut and make a simple sauerkraut lentil salad, like as a side dish or as an hors d'oeuvre. And we are constantly entertaining. That is a hit. Then, these broccoli sprouts are only like they're on day 3, so they're not ready. But we'll use broccoli sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, mung bean sprouts, some clover sprouts here. I got to rinse these. And even like the salad mix. And instead of using leafy lettuce, which who knows how old they are, we're going to use fresh sprouts as the base of a salad, right? And then I'll make a tahini dressing with fresh tahini and maybe some other flavors um, to go in. We have chef on the line, so he can do that. But I keep it very simple. And then, some of the breakthroughs, and you'll see this in my videos, I will replace rice in sushi. So plant-based sushi, right? But in my cucumber rolls and the like, and instead of using rice, which is high glycemic, um, and a lot of empty calories and highly processed, I'll use sprouts as the base of a sushi. And you get that crunch, you get the feeling. And if you marinate them and roll them, they could be very tight and flavorful. So in my smoothies, and I have my beautiful beast blender wherever she is, um, I will use sprouted lentils, sprouted garbanzo beans, sprouted mung beans as protein if I want protein in the smoothie. So I'll take, banana, a date, maybe some coconut water and cacao and make a sprout protein smoothie. So you can just add them through it. And I have a wheatgrass juicer, and I will take broccoli sprouts and make broccoli sprout, alfalfa sprout juice, which is like people are juicing wheatgrass. Like this is, the sprout juice is just a whole other level of getting it in. So, what I do now is I incorporate them into other food because now, since I've been living on sprouts, I manifested my extremely intelligent wife, and we now have a 3-year-old child, home birth in the desert.
Oh,
But at the time I was living by myself in a tent, just, juggling. So what I would do is I'd just eat out of the jar.
okay.
And I was making sure I was eating, 3 or 4 full jars of sprouts. And you find out if you stop eating added salt, added oil, added sugars, the food addiction goes down and you eat basically when you're hungry until you're not full. And because you're getting all these nutrients, the brain is easily satiated, right? If you're eating empty calories that have salt and oil and sweetener on it, there's such a disconnect and confusion, then people will just overeat blindly because that food engineering is making you eat because the dopamine is going off in your brain saying eat, 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 whether it's healthy or not, whether you need it or not, whether you're hungry or not. So I'm very attuned to animals in nature that they eat when they're hungry and they don't overeat. And so what I could tell you is you don't overeat sprouts. Like you just don't. Like if you were to add pour oil on them, yeah, then you will overeat them. And oil and salt, yeah, I was going to do an experiment, but I think it's ethically not safe. I was going to go to the farmer's market and do tempura cardboard and just show that people would literally be eating cardboard if you've deep fried it, right? That people would eat anything, but it's unethical, so I can't do it. But I just want to show people will eat anything if you make it taste good or you engineer it to trigger the pleasure sensors in the brain.
Yes. All right, Chef, I see you over there. Do you have some comments, Chef? You see some comments, and we want, fam, if you're in here with us, we are up in here today. Please drop your questions for Doug. When you get the opportunity to actually speak with the Sprout Man and the best-selling author of the Sprout book and the serial health food entrepreneur, this is your time to drop your questions. We'll make sure we get them asked. This is what Plantish is all about. It's a conversation together, not just 3 people up here talking. You are a part of this. So please drop your questions. Continue. Thank you. We see the hearts and the fire emojis, meaning probably we like what you're saying, Doug. But Chef, do you see any comments you want to call out?
Yeah, I just want to shout out the fam. We have Maria from Armenia. We have Mike from Sonoma County. Sue from Bend, Oregon. Joy from North Carolina. Good morning, She Girl 57. I think you called her out. And yeah, we're just getting sprouts and hi and how are you guys? And should we eliminate rice, couscous, and any other wheat pasta from
I
Holistic
mean,
Professor?
I mean, it's a personal question. Like those things have calories, they have nutrients. To me, it's about always doing your best, right? So always raising your standard. if you were asking me on a nutritional level, if you could have sprouts over those, yes. If you're eating that over, animal flesh, for sure. So it's constantly weighing things to what do you feel in your heart you're most attracted to, and what do you have basis for. I always want to make sure people are eating enough calories, right? So we don't want to spin people into anything unhealthy. So that's where the transition is, raising the standards, right? And now that I'm like tuned into these standards, it's hard for me to go back. And I've also know that I will not become, I will not vaporize if I miss a meal. So if I'm in a place where the right food isn't at that moment, I will skip that meal as opposed to eating something that is lower standards. My core standards are whole food, plant based. I'm, you know, technically I call myself raw, but I love steamed artichokes. I will eat some steamed broccoli or asparagus or other, vegetables, but I won't use, hard line on animal products. There's no animal products. There's no insects. There's nothing that's been exploited, from an animal in my diet. So I'm hardcore on that. But, since I'm creating a revolution for everybody, I want people to add sprouts to their diet. So I have no judgment. Like you'll see on my social media, someone posts eggs, which I would never eat, and they got sprouts on it, I'm sharing it because I want people to add sprouts to everything. I want everyone to be healthy. And I can't judge anyone because until 33 years old, I was eating, quarter pounder with cheese, 9-piece chicken McNugget, apple pie, hot fudge sundaes, Coca-Cola, I don't even remember who that Doug was, but I do remember that I can't judge because it was me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And Plantish is known for that. We are inclusive, we're diverse, and we meet everyone where they're at. I always say, no matter what's on your plate, just taking so many of these gems that Doug has dropped and shared with us and adding to what you're currently eating. Because I think that's the fear that sets in, that what am I giving up? What do I have to sacrifice? You don't have to sacrifice anything. Where am I going to get my protein? Doug's been already dropping where we're getting our protein. I came into veganism bodybuilding, and I was the first one to say, where am I going to get my protein? And I realized I didn't lose anything. I got stronger. My recovery time was faster. I slept better. I was already cooking food, and it was no brainer for me. Chef Sesabek is a vegan since birth. So if they say it's not sustainable, just take a look at this man. Is
Yeah.
anything look non-sustainable about Chef Sesabek? I
Yeah.
get
Look at
very
those cheeks.
excited.
Look at those cheeks.
Look at that skin. We're going to make him blush, Doug. We're going to make him blush because the truth of the matter is, someone said, Chef, did you see the comment? I'm inspired and new to this way of eating and wanting to change so many things about my health, inflammation being number one. We have to start with one thing so we don't get overwhelmed. And just like social media, consistency in what we do is important. So I want to, suggest whatever gems you're taking from Doug, think of the one thing you can commit to yourself. This is Self-Care Tuesday. What can you do that you can stick with and then grow from there? This is not the race. This is the journey. And so we want to make sure all this information, like Doug said, nobody is judging here, but we're sharing knowledge, we're sharing inspiration, we're sharing experience. So you can see the three of us, I've been vegan 25 years, and I came in Venice Beach bodybuilding, and I'm still here to talk about it. And, so when people ask me, because some vegans I know get upset, where do you get your protein? I'm like, bring it on. How much time do you have? Because I'm going to spin your head, just like Chef Sesabek will, just like Doug will, but with love, with compassion, and with wanting to see you be able to be your best. There's good, better, and best. Where do you want to land? all three of them are better than maybe where we're at today. So that's my sermon for today on Tuesday. You know, I bring the sermon, the light, and the energy because nobody wants to see us. And this is what sprouts do to you. You don't need any other kind of um,
Yeah.
entertainment type sustenance or substance. I want to be careful with my words here. Here we are. So Doug, we are so excited to have you here. Did you know you were kind of coming into all this energy,
Oh,
Doug?
I mean, I felt it. I mean, that's why, if you recall, I slipped into your
I
DMs,
know you
right?
slipped in, Doug, and I paid attention.
So, it's like my outreach is really about finding like-minded souls that are operating in the same vibration. And, there's a lot of them out there. And it's so interesting how, just like with food, with friends, with family, it's constantly raising your standards and finding people that don't judge you, that support you, that want to see you alive and light. And it's very painful, watching people, eating processed food, refined food, overeating, and, losing their health. So, I think what the three of us are doing and what you're doing with Plantish is providing a means of sustainability and reference to show that it can be done. But we should all be aware that certain addictive things like gambling, like crack, like alcohol, like smoking, you can give up any of those things and never look back. But food is something that you have to dance with and negotiate every day of your life. Every day, because wherever you go, there's going to be food. Wherever you look on TV or radio, billboards, unless you were like me, living in a tent in the desert, you are being bombarded with messages and loving peer pressure. Like you go out, and people are thinking like, oh, you need to eat this, you need to eat that, and everyone, it's like no one is going to try to, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but no one is going to try to convince you to become vegan because they want something bad for you, right? People are introducing it. And there's a fine line between being vegan and plant-based. A lot of people are plant-based because they're doing it for health, and a lot of people are vegan because they're doing it for the animals. And sometimes that line gets blurred. I'm doing it for both, but I think in the level that it's hard for people. I had lunch with Melanie Joy, and she wrote about why people, wear cows, eat pigs, etc. And it's just like the society blinds it so people don't even know. But I think that if people start to eat plants and they know that they're better for the environment, better for you, there's no side effects other than positive ones, they'll do that. And then they'll slowly be open to some of the deeper conversations and the deeper wisdom about transformation. Like, so everyone has to start somewhere. And what's great about Sprouts is it's so easy. You add like a quarter cup of seeds into the jar, and then you soak them, and then you rinse them, twice a day, and lo and behold, you're getting vegetables. So from a mathematic perspective, it is a miracle that you can go from 35 grams of seeds into 350 grams of sprouts. So you're going from like an ounce of seeds to 10 ounces of sprouts, like exponential growth. And that is a miracle. And the fact that like my daughter watches the sprouts grow, and it's fascinating for her to actually see the daily growth. And then she eats it. And she doesn't eat candy. Like, it's so hard to explain to a 3-year-old why all of her friends are eating candy and regular ice cream. And now she knows, oh, ice cream regular ice cream comes from a cow, um, I don't want to hurt the cow. I don't want that. Where's the vegan ice cream? And she picks up everything. It's the cutest thing. She goes, is this vegan? Is this vegan? I mean, and she knows about love. She just knows about love. She's being brought up in a loving environment, and it's hard because people think they're being generous and kind, but they're offering her something that actually could hurt her. And we know about the impact, on children if you give them sugar, if you give them dairy, on asthma and all these other things. So, it's complicated. And for us, we keep it simple. And that's where I want to just say, hey, everybody can sprout in days on your kitchen countertop, for under $1 a serving, the equipment, whether it costs $100 or $2, whatever, it pays for itself very quickly if you use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Chef, I see some comments. I want to keep our audience engaged because we have a great fam community in here. Can you see some of the comments coming in or any questions, fam? If you have any questions, this is your time. Of course, you can DM Doug here, but usually the questions are coming hot and heavy. So get them out, put them in the chat. We're taking the time to keep you included in this conversation.
Absolutely. I just want to backtrack to this comment here from Lucy. My apologies if I butcher your name. What are some of your most important appliances that you cannot be without?
Well, I would say, if you look at, my little my little countertop here, I got 5 of these going right now of my sprouters so that I can stagger the crops and always have fresh sprouts to eat. Another thing I love is the Beast blender. It's smaller, it's almost as powerful as a Vitamix. It's a little quieter, beautiful aesthetic. So I love my Beast blender. I have an Excalibur dehydrator that I've had for many, many years that we make raw candy, for my daughter. So you can actually see this is our kind of survival shelf, where we have freeze dried chickpeas, freeze dried apples. These are persimmons that we blended and then we made into a wrap, like a fruit roll. And then these are slices of the persimmons. And this is freeze dried asparagus. This is dehydrated persimmon. These are really cute. These are freeze dried mandarin oranges. Um, so I like, and I'm saying this, it's expensive. The freeze dryer is a few $1,000s. The dehydrator is a couple $100s. So you can use both. And then I love my Nama, J2 juicer, right? Because you can juice wheatgrass, you can juice sprouts in it, you can juice other things. So that's like my little arsenal. And then I have other um, uh, manual appliances. I've got a chef's mandolin. So I love the mandolin, and I like the spiralizer, to take zucchini noodles and other parts to mix in with the sprouts and parts. So that's it. And I'd say a good set of knives. Like knives are really important because if you want to cut things, you want to cut things. And a dull knife can cut your hand and doesn't cut through. So a good knife set. And then also I love the Boss cutting boards. I like those. I'm experimenting with the titanium cutting boards, but it's really harsh on my knives. It doesn't do, it's good from a bacterial level, but it dulls my knives, etc. And also, I like the ceramic knife because it doesn't make the like the when you cut the sprouts with a metal knife, they start to brown and oxidize, and the ceramic knife doesn't create the oxidation.
All right.
Wow.
Right, you asked and you got it. Show and tell all day Tuesday. I love that. Chef, I know you see some other questions, and then I want you to take it over with Doug.
Absolutely. So, from Uriel, peace, love, and respect. I love how he says, if he doesn't like the choices for a meal, he will skip it. This is very important. Eating and knowing when to not eat is powerful for digestive. Let's see here. From Lucy, we need the sprouting vending machines. Wish more grocery stores had a way to open up a door and grab some fresh sprouts on the go. I agree with you 110%. From Far East, freeze dried watermelon would be excellent. Okay.
I've had it. I've had it. Yeah, I love a little shout out to Harvest Right. You know, so freeze drying is basically a process where you freeze it very cold, like 20 degrees below zero, and then um, it starts to warm, and then you use a very strong vacuum, and it causes the ice ice to melt and sublimate into a gas, and then it removes all of the moisture entirely. So you're left literally with the nutrients. You're left with the fiber and the nutrients. So it's very powerful freeze drying, and it's a great emergency food. So and also it's a good travel food. So I'll freeze dry my sprouts before I go on a plane because they can they just last. And so that's another thing. Like if no one, very rarely is someone going on a trip that's not planned for. So if you plan the trip and you pack your bags and you have your plane ticket and your passport or what have you, plan your food. Like you are worthy of consuming good food. And I've gone on a plane, and if I know it's a long trip, I'll bring my sprouts. I'll bring 6 bananas, right? I'll eat some bananas. I'll eat a pound of grapes. I'll eat a pound of cherries, and I'll have my sprouts, and I'm getting it all. And people might look at what I'm eating versus the airplane food, but even the simplest airplane food has all these preservatives and oils and sweeteners and salts. It's like, wow, I don't want to eat that.
Mm,
Exactly.
yes.
Doug, you make me think. A few years ago, I was traveling back and forth to Australia and New Zealand. That's a, 15-hour direct flight. And I took young coconut and I marinated it and then I dehydrated it. So this is years ago also. So traveling was kind of different. And I had like 2 pounds of this marinated, delicious, it tastes like kind of what one might
Jerky.
think bacon jerky. Yes, and it sustained me, and I thought at some point I was going to get like sick of it. I just had my water. I had that because what they were offering me as a vegan offering on the plane was a little bit not at all tasty or appetizing.
Yeah, look, I think that everyone who's tuned in here, and I think everyone on the planet is worthy of living their best life ever, right?
Yeah.
And part of it is like we have a gift, like we are alive, like we're a gift, and we are worthy of consuming high quality nutrition, and we're worthy of consuming and doing the exercise and reading, spiritual or motivating text, and really taking control of our life. Because if we don't take control, we're just going to be part of someone else's agenda. And I think that, what I love about, the plant-based diet is the fact that there's a conversation around the environment, around nutrition, around self-care. And if you're eating the right nutrition, you'll have the energy to exercise, to put in, look, I don't have a gym because like I don't want to drive in the car an hour to go to a gym. So I do body weight exercises, right? So I walk, I carry heavy stuff. So I'll carry, two bags of stuff. I just recently got the vest. So I wear a 40-pound vest, which I don't like, but I do anyway. And then I do my push ups. So all body weight stuff. And it's much easier to go and doom scroll than it is to exercise, right? I don't know if you agree with me, but you have to get off your butt and go exercise. But I don't like it. I really don't like it. But I like that after I've done it, it feels great. So my wife, I'm gonna tag her here because she's the best. Um, so um, she has taught me to focus on my successes in the course of the day. So like I'm focused on my successes. So at night we sit with each other in bed and go, okay, tell me your successes. And I go, I got up, I took the baby out for a walk, I cleaned the kitchen, I nurtured my sprouts, I was on time to all of my calls, I did my exercise, I did my 300 push-ups, and all of my successes, because in the past I would just focus on those one or two things that I screwed up on
Mm.
and I did wrong. So now, you know, um, I'm focused on like, what do I do successful? And I was right on time for our call today. That is a success. And, everything that I'm communicating, I feel successful. I've made new friends. So I think that if we're going to be in this body, we will make mistakes. And what we need to do is just be compassionate to ourselves. And if we're compassionate to ourselves, we'll be compassionate to others. And then we can even gain the capacity and for compassion to non-human animals as well.
Phenomenal. Wow. You said it. This has been a great conversation, Doug. Thank you so much for dropping all the gems that you shared with us. We just want to shift really quick into our rapid fire, where we just kind of dive into the mind of our guest. And yeah, you can answer these questions in a couple sentences or however you feel called. So the very first question I have for you, you consumed sprouts for 30 days. So I have to ask, what was your favorite sprout to just open up the jar and just eat right then and there?
Um, Believe it or not, it
Uh-huh.
varied. So over time, like I went through phases. I loved the lentils. I loved the broccoli. I loved the alfalfa sprouts.
Hmm.
My go-to easiest beginner sprout is lentils.
Hmm.
Like it has a crunchy, nutty, filling flavor, and it seems to never get tired for me to have lentils. In my mind, I know I want the anti-inflammatory benefits of the broccoli sprouts. So that's secondary, and I make sure I'm eating the broccoli sprouts every day regardless.
Mm, love that. Love alfalfa. That's my personal favorite. So those are all amazing. The next question that I have for you, moving along, if you could sprout only one seed for the rest of your life, which one would you choose?
Whoa.
It'll probably be broccoli.
Is there a specific reason?
I mean, broccoli sprouts are the most researched at this present moment for their anti-inflammatory effects, for their chemoprotective properties, for their ability to regulate insulin levels. They pass the blood-brain barrier from the anti-inflammatory through the NRF2.
Mm,
So there seems to be, something really magical in them. And so, like with the not my necessarily my taste buds, but my brain and my deeper knowledge, like if I only had to choose one, that would be it for those reasons.
amazing. Yeah, this is like a master class on sprouts and sprouting. I just love it. I have to watch this replay at least 3 times to digest everything that was shared. But for the sake of time, let's move along to the next question. What's your go-to meal featuring sprouts that anyone can make in under 10 minutes? I know you shared a couple already, but what is your go-to?
I mean, I think a sprout salad with tahini dressing, where you're taking tahini and a ferment, pickle brine or sauerkraut and just throwing it together, because then you're getting the savory and the texture and the nutrients, and basically that dressing, the fat in the dressing and the protein in the dressing, and a little bit of the salt, the sodium from the ferment makes everything taste good, so you can easily eat the sprout salad in 1 seconds and thirds.
Mm, love that. But I have to try that for sure. Making me hungry. It's lunchtime over here. I'm on the East Coast.
All right.
Yeah, last question that I have for you is if you weren't working in health and wellness, what would you be doing?
I would be a stay-at-home dad.
Love that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
It took me a while to build up how many minutes I could spend alone with my daughter.
Uh-huh.
And now, like, I'm up to several hours.
I love that so much. Wow. Well, that concludes the rapid fire round. You did amazing. And again, thank you so much for this conversation and sharing the gems. Back over to you, Chef.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're here for the stay-at-home dads who sprout and freeze dry and do all these fun things so their 3-year-old daughters go, is this vegan? Is this vegan? Is this good for me to eat no matter what it is? What's a good source of fat? Someone's asking Hugh Q. What's a good
Um,
source of
I
fat?
say avocado, olives. I prefer to eat whole foods, so I don't do any oils. Like, just I'm a oil free. We're an oil free family. So, but all sprouts have some fat in it. Um, but if you want specific fats, I like olives and olive oil. I'm sorry, olives and avocados.
Yeah, yeah. And Far East 410 said I got the most crisp organic lettuce the other day and was the best lettuce I ever had. Yes, when you get good produce, it's like candy. I'm in California and we are going to, or they are proposing that we are going, or the farm workers are going to strike. So no fear mongering here. But where I'm at in Sacramento, we push out about 80% of the produce that's going across the country. So I want us to be very mindful. As Chef said, we will repost this session because we do that anyway, but this is so dynamic. I knew we were going to be sprouting all these minutes and taking every minute and chomping on them. But I do invite you to come back. I will repost it a little later when it repopulates because I do a whole caption and then we do clips. So watch for Doug's clips, Chef's clips, my clips in the stories because you need to break this down. Doug, we thank you so much for your time and your daughter going, okay, I'll let you borrow him for a moment, but don't get crazy with it. What would you like with all that you said, because you said a lot, so people are going to really need to digest that, pun intended, for sure. What would you like people to remember most as we always say, we send people off into their brilliance?
Look, I think that sprouting is easy and that everyone can have a countertop garden. It requires no experience and it's easy and it pays for itself. And it's the gift that just keeps on giving. So, for yourself and for others, start sprouting.
Yeah, I love that. Someone saying Forest 410, I want to try sunflower sprouts. I sprout sunflowers all the time, and then I make my sprouted sunflower seed milk, which
Wow.
is delicious. Get into your seed milks and sunflower seed milk because of the sunflower, the lecithin in it, it makes for a great foaming milk when you're making your lattes and your everything you want where you want the foam, it is naturally there. Someone else, Doug, I just want to get this because someone might have come in later. You've covered this, but they're asking, where is it? How do you get your protein for the day? What's your go-to protein source? That's
Yeah.
Hurricane Jama.
So what I would say is if you're eating enough calories of raw foods and whole food plants, you will get your protein. Like, just mic drop, stop. If you're eating enough calories, you're getting the protein. End of story. I think the protein obsession is part of the meat agenda propaganda.
And the propaganda that you can only get protein from animal source is not true. I came into it bodybuilding. Chef Sesabek has been a vegan since birth. We're not going to ask him his age. He just looks good, and you can tell that it's sustainable. Doug is here. It's sustainable. So, Chef, send us off into our brilliance. Those of you just coming in, thank you. Those that came in since we started 9 a.m., Pacific Standard Time. That would be 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back next Tuesday, but stay tuned. Tap in, follow Doug, follow Chef, follow me if we're singing and speaking what you like to hear, because that's who you want to stay connected with. As Doug said, we can be your accountability. You can check in with us. You don't have to wait to get married. You don't have to wait to get into a relationship to have accountability. You can find those people that want to be accountable for you or to you. I need a connect on bulk hemp seed for the protein. I don't know, Doug, do you have
I,
a
I do I
source?
do I do not. I do not. I actually I'm looking for organic unhulled hemp seeds that are sproutable.
Mm,
Um Hard to come by, but I'm working on it.
okay,
So
we'll
all
stay
right,
tuned.
everyone. You all have the best day ever. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Doug.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yes, thank
you.
you so much.
Okay,
Have a
bye bye
great
now.
week. We'll be
Thank
back
you.
next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.